For Brevard Insurance, visiting with Jason Bowman. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Rachel?
I'm doing wonderful. So we do a lot with auto insurance. We insure your minivan, your grocery getter, your SUV, your truck, but there's a line that comes about with the auto policy where once it comes off the factory, you got those stock parts, but then you find this really cool hobby or this really cool interest and you start adding to your truck, like I've kind of done this past year. And that's where the auto policy needs to get revamped. And that's where you need to have a conversation with your agent. So we're here with Jason to kind of talk about the things that he does to trucks to make it fun, make the ride better, make it just more enjoyable, like a kid again.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. So when someone calls you, what has been your most common ask?
They want to travel cross country with the vehicle and live out of it.
Okay.
Somewhat. So they want to add roof racks and tents.
Okay.
Like that one on the top of that.
So this is sounding kind of familiar.
Right. And then once they do start traveling and they realize that they want to get a little bit more off-road, they want to add lift kits and they want to get a little bit better suspension.
Okay.
And then they realize that the roof rack and the tent that they put on weighs an extra 1,000 pounds and their brakes won't handle it. So then we got to upgrade the brakes and even add mods to the motor to make it a little bit more powerful.
You keep looking at my truck when you say that.
Well, no, I'm just, because you have the tent on there. But,
I do. I've got a tent and a cap on it and whatnot. So that's pretty amazing. People come from, are they mostly local or do they come?
All over the United States.
All over the United States.
I would say 75% is North Carolina, South Carolina.
Okay. All right. So when they are traveling cross country, they're not just going on highways then, they're going back roading and overlanding and that whole situation.
So they'll start off with just a bare bones truck and they'll drive to see the national parks.
Right.
And then from there they're like, oh, I'd like to do the Rubicon Trail or that I'd like to do the Pan American Highway. And like the Rubicon Trail is a way more technical off-roading trail, so they need better suspensions, better tires, higher vehicles to do some of the crossings, and like I said, to handle the weight, because then they got to bring things like refrigerators, coolers, stuff to actually live out of the gear. Because once you get on the Rubicon Trail, there is no gas station nearby, or well, there is, but it's a little bit more off the grid.
Now, where's that at the Rubicon Trail?
California, Nevada, California.
Nevada. Okay. And so that says to me like Rubicon Jeeps, but you work on more than just Jeeps.
That's what it's named after.
Okay.
Yep. Rubicon, the Jeep is named after the Rubicon.
Oh, really?
The Rubicon edition. Yep.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Now you do more than Jeeps, so obviously we've got two trucks sitting here. Do you do mostly trucks or SUVs?
We do mostly trucks and SUVs, but a little bit more on the truck side. And the reason for that is like we do flatbeds, and I'm more familiar with the truck side of things than I am like the Mercedes and stuff that made overlanding popular.
Oh, the vans.
They're not as common here, so I'm not as familiar with them as I am a domestic truck or a Toyota, like that.
What's your favorite thing to do?
As far as building them?
Yeah.
I like going and finding a truck that's just been abandoned and no one thinks there's any life left in it, like that one. Yeah. And just turning it into something really awesome.
Well, what's the story behind this one? This is yours.
Yeah. So this is a 2002, a 1999, a 2003, and a 2006 F-350. So the story behind it is that this is originally a 02 F-350, and they put a motor in it, and the guy sent his new guy to go pick it up from the garage, and he drove 6 miles and he rolled it and totaled it. So I got it. I took possession of it, and we took a cab off a 1999 F-250 and put down on it. But then we robbed axles off an 03 and interior out of an 06, and then came up with this truck.
Wow. How long did that take?
2 years. But if I had worked on it only,
it
would took about 4 or 5 months.
Okay. That's incredible. Do you do that often, rebuilding trucks like that from ground zero?
I do. So when we get slow in the wintertime, so it's good to have a project vehicle to sit in here. That way when we get slow, we've got something to work on.
Right.
That even though I'm not collecting that money up front, when it comes, when it's done, I can sell it. And, that kind of holds me through the winter.
And have this like Jason Bowman original driving around the country.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome. And so this is cool. So this is an example of like the customizing equipment that we were talking about. How it's aftermarket, obviously, with this truck. But you put that on, and you've got the winch there.
Yep. So we make the flatbeds and the bumpers here in the house. I've got an AutoCAD
wow.
CNC, and we design it on the computer and then cut it out, weld it up, bend it. So we made the bumper. That's our design.
Okay.
The flatbed is our design. But then, then we use Fox suspension, Warn winch. I usually use like a Baja design or a Rigid Light. But I built that bumper during COVID, and the supply chain was everything was non-existent, so we had to get like Amazon lights to put on temporarily, which is fine. They do okay.
So why do you have a winch on your truck? Why do you need a winch?
Because you don't need a winch until you need a winch, Rachel. Anyway, so like when you're on the Rubicon Trail, if you're doing any type of off-roading, you're going to get stuck. The best thing to do to not get stuck is to lower your air pressure in your tires. Go nice and slow. Go with a team of people. That way, if you, God forbid, couldn't get unstuck,
right,
you can get help or get a ride out. But a winch is great to pull you out of getting stuck. But the rule for a winch is always get a winch that's 1.5 times the weight of the vehicle.
Okay.
So if your vehicle weighed 4,000 pounds, times that by 1.5, and that is 6,000 pounds. Get a 6,000 pound winch. I think I'm doing the math right on that.
That sounds about right.
So that's the rule for a winch.
Okay. So when someone says, hey, I just drove all the national parks, lived out of the truck, slept in my bed in the parking lots, all that jazz, I want to do these trails. What's your first suggestion to them?
For me personally, I would do, if you want to do some hardcore traveling, I would do something like the Pan American Trail that goes from Alaska all the way down to the tip of Argentina. And technically, you can do that trail in a Toyota Celica.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a super technical trail. But from a traveling standpoint, if you want to camp, instead of getting a motel every night and things like that, it's ideal to have a rooftop tent or a camper on the back of your truck to save money and live, camp out in nature while you're doing that.
Absolutely. Alaska to Argentina? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, the only section you can't travel through is the Darien Gap because there's no roads through there. So you got to take a ferry from there over into Colombia. I think it's Colombia.
Have you ever done it?
No. The trails I guess I have done is I've done a lot of the SCAR trails in South Carolina.
Okay.
Done a lot of the Forest Road trails on the East Coast up that spine Appalachian Mountains.
Right.
Done some trails out in Utah. Did a little bit of Moab. Colorado. I lived in Colorado for a while, so I did some of the trails out there. So that's about it for me. I've never even done the Rubicon Trail.
Okay. Is that on your list?
Yeah, I would enjoy doing it, but it's not like a priority.
Right.
I'd like to travel and see unique features. I like to hike to them. So I like the outdoor traveling part more than the technical off-roading part
Got
of
it.
building trucks.
With the ability just to get
With
out
the
there.
ability to go off-road and get to, even if I got to park and walk a mile,
Yeah.
I don't mind doing that.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, thanks, Jason, for being here. I really appreciate it. Or
Oh, yeah, no
us
problem.
being here, I guess. This
Yeah,
is
no
your
problem.
place. So we appreciate having us here.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, thanks, y'all. We are Brevard Insurance, and if you have any more questions about customization on vehicles, Jason is out there. He's got quite a few podcasts, too, so take a look at those. And if you want to talk about the insurance on it, we're here for you. Thanks, y'all.